It's been absolutely roasting out there today. I mean, good God.
It's been really busy here. It's been really cool.
Yeah, well, I stepped out with the dog first thing this morning. I thought I was on holiday. That heat that you get when you're on holiday, I was like, "Well, what's this? This is
rather than just
Northeast Scotland." Yeah, fantastic.
So, just wait. Did you manage to get a whiskey that you'll have?
I did. Yeah. Well, I thought I don't have any Balvenie just now, so I thought, but I need to get something with a nice kind of hit of sherry. So I've got the end of a nice Glenglasser Oloroso. So I thought that would fit the bill, and it would fit in nicely. I'm actually drinking a nice citrus coastal rock rose gin just now, which has got a lovely smack of that saltiness. So I thought a nice whiskey that'll go along with that. I thought a Glenglasser, it's got that kind of salty element to it as well. So I thought that would complement once I finished my gin.
Nice.
You've got a nice beer pour there?
I've gone for the Fierce Beer Pilsner.
Oh, nice.
Nice gluten-free. Just arrived back in the shop today, so
cool.
Got the Fierce guys on, and I've got the
almost
the Tomatin Mombazik.
Yeah.
That's my whiskey.
I haven't tried any of those yet. The wine finishes. I'm looking forward to trying them.
I have to get you a wee sample. So we've got our first watcher on. So welcome along. Hopefully that numbers are going to start picking up. We welcome to this week's Blether. We've got a great guest for you tonight. We've got Alwynne Gwilt from William Grant's, who's going to be chatting to us from the Lioness pub. She is out and about having a dram, having a cocktail, I believe. And so we will hear some background noise. That is actual real life people enjoying themselves.
What's that about? Actual atmosphere.
Yeah, it feels so bizarre to be thinking about it. So without further ado, we'll bring Alwynne in. We'll see what's in her glass and learn a little bit more about her.
Hello, good evening. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Alwynne.
How are you?
Hello, I'm good. As you said, I've got real life atmosphere in the background. So forewarning, if anybody's watching this and anything goes awry, for once it won't be my puppy randomly running into a shot, which it has been for the last 18 months, pretty much, of either puppies or sirens or something outside my flat. And this is the first time I'm actually doing something whilst being out, which is thoroughly exciting.
It's not really a virtual meeting if there's not a dog or a cat or a child running on screen.
Accidentally showing up in the background, for sure. So this time it might just be random actual humans, which is quite terrifying in its own way.
and I mean, you've got your microphone, your laptop, and your headphones and all that with you. That's quite a bag you must have on your night out. Normally you see bags, but you must be carrying quite a knapsack with you.
Yeah, I am. But that's fine. Normally, I mean, in my past life, when I was out and about all the time, I would have probably had a small rolly bag of whiskeys with me at all times. So I'm pretty used to carrying quite a lot of stuff all about. So it's all fine as long as everyone can hear me just fine. And
Yeah, absolutely perfect coming through. Guys, if you've got any questions, pop it on. We'll catch them on the comments. And then we'll pitch it to Alwynne. So just while we get the kind of crowd in watching, they might be all out in the pubs again, like yourself.
I know people are excited to be out, and you know what? It's all for that support hospitality. They can always catch it up later if needs be. It's thrilling to be able to see people out in bars and venues and supporting people now that we're actually able to.
Yeah. So are you more focused on trade or off trade, or is it across both?
Everything. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously this past year, a lot of it has been virtual tastings for the off-trade, for places like yourselves, for any of our big like ISR accounts or maybe grocery like Waitrose where the Balvenie is stocked. So obviously in my day-to-day job as the Balvenie UK brand ambassador, that's what the focus is going to be. When everything was locked down, when there weren't any on-trade bars open, things like that. But now that things are opening up again, trying to go out and just support people and say hi and just check in on them. You know, everybody's so busy and there's a lot of staff shortages at the minute. Don't know if it's the same up in Scotland, but definitely in England, people are really feeling the pinch right now. So just trying to find any possible way to support, even if it's just to, say hi to some old accounts and check in on people.
Yeah. Awesome. So how did it start for you? You're Canadian, is that Canada? So how long have you been in the UK? Was the move over to the UK part of the whiskey cycle, or were you here before you discovered whiskey? How did it all start?
Yeah, so I grew up in Canada and I moved over here in 2007. I actually studied broadcast journalism, so I was working in newspapers and in broadcast in Toronto, where I went to university. And I moved over to the UK. My father's English, so I spent a lot of my childhood coming back and forth because his family is still all over here. So I was lucky enough to have dual citizenship. And the newspaper I was working at, which is the Globe and Mail in Toronto, they needed a reporter based in London, and they needed someone there quickly. And I was 22, and I said, I've got a passport, so get me over there. So I originally came over here to be a freelance journalist for the Globe and Mail. And I soon at that point realized that the exchange rate was terrible. And for every 2.5 Canadian dollars I was paid, that equated to £1. So my savings did not last long. So I actually ended up working, changing careers a little bit. I moved into financial journalism. And it was actually during an event for a magazine I was writing for at the time, which was being hosted by a Scottish financial association, that I went to Milroy's in Soho. So this would have been about February 2008. I went along to Milroy's very much not wanting to, because I thought whiskey was terrible. And I was anywhere in a place in my life where I thought it would be a nice evening off to go and taste old whiskeys in the basement of Milroy's. Obviously, Milroy's was very different back then. It was mostly just, it was the shop. It didn't have the bar like it does now. And, I knew nothing about it. But lo and behold, I went along, tasted some phenomenal whiskeys. I have no idea what they were. I did write them down somewhere, but I was just so blown away by all this flavor and everything I was experiencing that I left that evening going, I found this absolutely new love of whiskey. So my journey into whiskey was very much as a consumer. And I spent the first 3 years pretty much just enjoying whiskey, drinking whiskey, buying different bottles, going into Milroy saying, guys, I like this, I like that. I started with a Dalwhinnie, I had an Oban, then I moved into Springbank. It was a bit like, what should I try? And just whatever they'd recommend. And then people started buying me bottles until 2011, when I decided to quit everything and just focus on writing about whiskey.
So did you get snapped up by William Grant? Did they approach you to do some work for them?
Yeah, So I started my blog, Miss Whiskey, in 2011, which is a whole decade ago, which is quite terrifying. And obviously the blogging world... the blogging world was very different back then. There were a handful of us out there writing about whiskey really passionately. There weren't so many females writing about whiskey at the time. There were a handful globally. Alison Patel, who's gone on to create Bren Whiskey, and is obviously so well loved and amazing out in New York. She was one of the few kind of female whiskey writers. And Matt and Karen from Whiskey for Everyone. But there weren't a load. So I kind of joined that whiskey blogging crew and was lucky enough that I kind of got into that world right when it was really starting to pick up, and there were more people getting interested in it. Blogging was, a real career you could make, and having had a journalism background, it was a natural move for me to write articles and do stuff outside of the blog, Miss Whiskey. So I had lots of great opportunities, and through that and over that period of time, I started doing some tastings, hosting some events, one of which was for Balvenie. And Balvenie, I was lucky enough, was the second whiskey distillery I ever went to. And I felt totally madly in love, a bit like that night at Milroy's in Soho when I left going, whiskey's amazing. I went to the Balvenie distillery and was like, Balvenie is amazing. This place is amazing. And, my pure enthusiasm from that kind of led to some event work, which, eventually led into the last 5.5 years I've been at William Grant.
Awesome. What's been the highlight then of your William Grant career so far?
Oh, that's tricky. I've had some great moments hosting really cool events. One of my favorites, we did a series called The Craftsman's Dinner, and I was lucky enough to work really closely with Michel Roux Jr., who obviously runs Le Gavroche, which is just the most phenomenal 2 Michelin star restaurant in London. And I was lucky enough to spend a week up at the distillery with him and filming and with the whole crew creating that series, and traveling to other places as well. So I was part of 2 series series with them, one of which was visiting different craftspeople all around the UK. You can still see them actually on YouTube. They're beautifully stunning videos done by a company called Rogan Productions. And just getting to spend time with him and having these moments of going, like, just getting to operate and work with just such incredible people. And I think it's the people that have definitely shaped my experience in this industry. So whether that was when I first started the blog on Miss Whisky and the people I was meeting around the world of whiskey and, you know, traveling the world, meeting people, or whether it was in the role as the UK brand ambassador for the Balvenie, it's really been the people that have made it. And, you know, everything from the filming with Michelle Jr. to, you know, quiet moments in the blending lab with David Stewart, who is just one of the most legendary people in the whiskey industry, you know, getting to help him choose single samples for the next single cast runs on the whiskey. You know, there's just nothing more exciting for me than moments like that, where they're so personal, you're so engaged, you're so focused in on these whiskeys, and you're working beside someone who has almost 60 years of experience in the industry. It's genuinely hard to beat those moments.
Yeah, it must be almost overwhelming there, sitting trying to tell David what you think of the whiskey.
It is, yeah. I always have those moments where I'm like, I'll let him go first and then I'll agree. I think that's the same. But no, David's one of the nicest, kindest people in the industry, and not only the industry, just in general, as a general human being, he's just wonderful. And so I think even if I said something that was disagreeable with him, he would not reprimand me in any capacity. We'd have a great discussion about it and what I was finding. So yeah, very, very lucky to get a chance to work with some absolutely outstanding figures in, you know, both the whiskey world, but then, you know, maybe in the food world as well.
We have Tobias saying hello from Germany. Balvenie is really amazing with a wee happy face. I met Tobias at the Isla Whisky Academy last year, or 2 years ago now. We keep forgetting last year happened, don't we?
I know, exactly. I still am saying last year, and I'm like, no, it's 2019.
The 2020 actually happened, yeah. And my wife would be insanely jealous. I mean, of you spending so much time with Michelle Rue Jr. She's a huge fan. I went to his cook school a few years ago and absolutely loved it. What an incredible person he is as well. So what an honour to be able to spend so much time with him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I've been lucky enough when working with Balvenie, the people that we tend to end up working with are really genuine, really kind, nice people. And he is exactly that. And everybody, you know, even within his team now, you know, his head chef, Rachel Gaetano as well. They're just such a wonderful team at Le Gavroche. So I think, I feel very privileged to have those opportunities, definitely.
And Balvenie is one of those wonderful whiskies that, you know, we talk about the whole Scotch, you know, films like The Golden Dram, where they suggest that, you know, Scotch is mentioned so much in Hollywood and films. It's every kind of iconic scene. Somebody's pouring a Scotch or saying, we need a Scotch, or you need a whiskey. The Balvenie is often one of the ones when you recognise the bottle. It's a Balvenie, right? And then Glenfiddich. These are the ones you actually recognise on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. That iconic bottle shape, it's something that we implemented into the range back in 1993 as part of the centenary anniversary of the distillery's operations. And it's such an iconic bottle shape. I mean, it is patented. It is owned by the distillery, by the family, by William Grant and Sons. And it's based off the shape of our stills. And I do exactly that same thing as when I'm watching a film or a TV show as well. And someone goes in a bar, you know, I do that. I kind of scan over and I see if I can spot it, and I can always do that immediately if it shows up anywhere. Definitely,
it's one of the recognisable ones, isn't it? Alongside the Glenfiddich as well with the triangle, you just know exactly what it's going to come out. That's the whiskey that they're picking up. Duncan's popped on there. Balvenie 12. I completely agree with you, Duncan. A great whiskey to introduce people to whiskey.
Yeah,
you know, in today's world, there is a lot of snobbery towards 40%, 43% whiskey. A lot of people want to hit 48 as a minimum, or 46 and then overnight cask strength. But Balvenie seems to be one of the few that is universally accepted as being in that low range scheme. And how do you think they've managed to keep that popularity and demand?
Yeah, I think the Balvenie has always had a really strong focus on offerings for different subsets of people, depending on what their interests are. So, you know, when you look at the single barrel range, the Balvenie is really the only company that has consistently released a series of single barrel or single bottle whiskies, single cask, whiskeys, ever since we launched the core range. So back in 1993, we launched the core range, including Doublewood 12, which was a cask finish. We had Founders Reserve, which was a marriage of whiskies. And then we had a single barrel. We call it single barrel. Other people call it single cask, as you guys know, release. And ever since, so each of those kind of spoke to a different audience. And of course, the whiskey audience was very different back in 1993 comparatively to what it is now. But I think one thing that has led a consistent line over all those years is having those slightly more interesting releases, which suit a market that is maybe wanting something higher ABV. So single barrel is always 47.8%. Things like our 30-year-old older releases are always bottled at a higher ABV as well. And then even within the core range, 14 and the 17 are bottled at 43%. Now, the 21, interestingly, is bottled at 43% in the US. It's bottled at 40% here in the UK. So yes, you're right. There are those more entry-level points, but I think that's nice. I think it's nice to be able to give an offering to the consumer, which varies, and it depends on your mood. Sometimes, I want something that's really punchy, and I want to be able to taste a bit more of that alcohol, or maybe more of something non-chill filtered, and I'll have a single barrel, and that's great. But at the same time, Doublewood's a classic for a reason, right? It's been in the portfolio since 1993. It was actually preceded by the Balvenie Classic. So Balvenie Classic is the original Doublewood. It was made exactly the same way. It was introduced back in 1981. So it has actually technically been on the shelves, but under a slightly different guise, for 40 years, which is pretty incredible when you think about it, because the world of single malt is actually still fairly young in comparison to whiskey in general when we look at that category. So I think there's always going to be people that want to try things at higher ABV if that's what suits their individual palate. But I think it's also nice for a company to offer different whiskeys for different palates. And Doublewood 12, as you say, can't be doing something too wrong, because it is still an absolute gem of a whiskey, which David Stewart always says is the thing he's most proud of in his entire career at William Grant & Sons, is the creation of Doublewood 12, because it really helps shift the narrative on what we can do with cask finishing on whiskeys. And like I said, that was preceded by the classic back in the 80s. So that idea, that concept of cask finishing was introduced a very long time ago, really.
You mentioned David a few times there, and I guess, coming towards the end of an era, with David being the longest serving master blender, what's the atmosphere like within the distillery, with knowing that he's ready to hang up his boots, as it were, in the new generation?
Well, it's never clear exactly when these things are going to happen, but I think there's a lot of there's a lot of that passing down of knowledge and that you have within the distillery itself. Because if you actually look, whether that's at our cooperage or at our coppersmiths or at the maltmen, across all of those teams, there have been a lot of people who've worked for, headed up those teams. Like Ian, when he retired, he'd been with us for 50 years as head cooper. Now, those skill sets are always slowly passed down to the next generation. And with David, we've got Kelsey, and, Kelsey is absolutely phenomenal, not only at what she does, but just as a human being as well. And again, I think that's what really is the foundation and fundamental aspect of Balvenie. People stick around for a really long time because they love what they do genuinely. And so with Kelsey taking on a 10-year apprenticeship, there is a focus there from her side about, really getting under the skin and really understanding the whiskey and, increasing her knowledge every year, but also making sure that David's legacy is passed down in a way that those stories don't go missing, that knowledge doesn't go missing, that we don't lose that part of it, if that makes sense. And with a lot of the people who've retired, it's people like Ian and stuff, pre-COVID, obviously not in the past year, but pre-COVID, they would be on the road with us. They would be going out, even went out to Mexico or over to Taiwan or to big markets and stuff. And they'll keep traveling and telling their stories as long as they want to, if they want to be a part of that. And there is that legacy as well within the family, within William Grant & Sons, of continuing to employ people for a few days a month as part of a contract, so that they can still come out and do things like that around the world with us. So yeah, I don't think there's any atmosphere of dismay yet. Obviously, I love.
I was thinking the opposite. I mean, there's something quite invigorating and exciting about change, and when newer and younger people come on the go, it kind of takes things in a different, fresh direction, doesn't it?
Yep, Yeah, definitely. And I think there's always been room for innovation. David, actually, I remember asking him a few years ago, we were in the blending lab, and I said, how, as someone who is from a generation that changes jobs all the time, well, I stayed in most careers for a fairly long period of time, but just looking at someone who's been doing something for so many decades, and you're like, how have you stayed interested in doing what you're doing? Have you not gotten bored? And he said, there's two reasons. One is because the family have always given him a lot of space to be innovative and to keep trying new things. And if you look at the history of the Balvenie releases, there's been a lot of key moments of innovation, whether that is the use of rum casks and how we do those, or bringing peat back into the system, like we had back before World War II when we were a peated whiskey. So he's always been given a lot of freedom to be innovative. But also he says, he can go in to the blending lab and learn something totally new each time he goes in. And that's what's amazing for him, is like he can pick up a sample thinking, oh, okay, this has been in a first fill sherry cask for the last 17 years. It's going to smell and taste like this. And it can really surprise him. And he that element of surprise, that element of continuous learning has been what has kept him interested in that job. And I think that invigoration, that excitement, as you say, a new change is excellent in a lot of ways. It brings in that excitement. But I think David has, luckily, throughout his career, been able to have those moments of continuing to innovate, continuing to change with the times in a way that he sees fit and works with whiskey while still being there for a long time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we are sadly almost coming to the end of an era with some of these great, David Stewart, there's Billy Walker, Jim McHugh, and this kind of old school kind of, steeped in the industry. It's great to see Balvenie have kind of being quite open with their what they've got planned for the future, bringing in Kelsey and training up and passing on knowledge. It's quite good to see. Tobias has been on again, and there's been a couple of comments on the tour at Balvenie.
Yes.
Doing space and his best. Just a complete tour. And then he goes on to mention his worst. I won't talk about that. But yes, Tobias, I am drinking a fierce beer. This is a beer made in Aberdeenshire. It's a Pilsner.
Nice.
We just got it into the
warm evening.
I know they arrived chilled. So I've had this. It didn't need chilled at all. It's really nice and cool. So, and it's gluten free as well. So being a celiac, I'm glad of it. So, Philip's asking if Warehouse 24 tastings are still available.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing those back at the end of July, hopefully, but don't quote me on that. That is going to be massively dependent on how the COVID situation happens. But I think that is the aim. The aim is for this summer. And it will be something, we've been able to do some really cool virtual distillery tours actually through the platform that we're using tonight, StreamYard. And they've been really innovative. And, the team are out there with GoPros and taking people around. But that's been more for customers, for internal stuff, but I expect we'll still have a virtual element going forward. And then, yes, hopefully by the end of the summer, we should hopefully be able to get people back through the doors. I've gone the longest ever without going back to the distillery. So I haven't been since November 2019, and I'm desperately missing it. So I will be one of the first people back on that Warehouse 24 tour, I think, when it reopens. But yeah, definitely one of the best out there.
We'll get staff trip up to the distillery and do a tour.
Oh God, for sure, yeah. I just want to stand in a warehouse and just breathe. You just like
absorb it into your pores.
Absolutely, so desperate for it.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It feels like I was watching all the Fischal stuff and virtual events going on, and just being immediately your memory as soon as you smell a whiskey, because I was opening some different Isla whiskeys and stuff at home, and just going like, yeah, it takes you back so immediately, but it's still not the same thing as standing in a really damp warehouse and feeling that humidity and the smell and everything like that. Definitely. So.
Yeah, I mean, the virtual world has been great, but there are, that's the kind of experiences that in person can't be beaten. The smells and the.
We spoke a few times about trying to develop a scratch and sniff for some of the tastes. Never quite managed to get that to.
We don't hear about sniff anymore, do you? Whatever happened.
But who's having a party in the background? Sorry, Juliet. That will be my. I've just noticed the comments. That will be. I'm out this evening,
Yes.
so I am, which is kind of crazy. So it's just some music in the background. I'm down at Lioness Bar in the South Bank in London. So hopefully I will be joining that party a little bit later tonight, but obviously in a very responsible manner. I'm very excited to be out supporting some of the hospitality trade as and when I can now that things are open again. So enjoy the soundtrack. It feels very odd to be out here and not in my living room. So you don't normally get a soundtrack as well with my tasting or my events.
So Alwynne, you walk into a whiskey bar.
Yeah.
You look around and you find there's no Balvenie in the shops. In the shelves. This would never happen. Balvenie would never do that. What do you look for next? What do you go for?
Oh, it depends. It depends what I'm in the mood for. So if I'm looking up at a shelf, I'll either go for something really classic and just easy, so I don't need to think about it. I'm just like, cool. I'm gonna grab like a Bowmore 12 Talisker, maybe a Talisker, probably. Springbank, but not as many whiskey bars are going to have Springbank. Springbank would be a go-to always. Those would probably be kind of three. I've really rediscovered Bowmore during lockdown, which was a nice surprise. I feel like I kind of forgot about tasting whiskey as much because I was on the road so much before with my job that I probably wasn't tasting as many other brands and things like that, just, as when I was writing about whiskey. So over lockdown, myself and my partner kind of looked at our whiskey shelves, and we've got quite a few hundred bottles, and kind of just started like opening a few that we hadn't had before and maybe refreshing ourselves. And I was like, wow, yeah, I came back to have a lot of love and respect for Bowmore during lockdown, because I just love the combination of sweetness and fruit and smoke, which I think they do excellently well. Springbank though is always a go-to, always has been. Like I said, it was one of those whiskeys Springbank and Glenfarclas were two bottles that I had very early on in my whiskey journey, picking them up from Milroy's back in the day. So I have a lot of love for those, just for the simple reason of, they're great whiskeys, family owned still. There's a lot of synchronicity in terms of what they talk about when it comes to whiskey making, especially if you go down to Springbank and actually can, see the process in real life. And so, yeah, I have a lot of love for those as well. But that was a very long answer. That wasn't a specific. I'm definitely going to go and have this.
Oh, that's a brilliant answer. It's interesting you bring up Bowmore, because Mike and I are both married to lovely women who both love Bowmore and would be their go-to. My wife in particular isn't a massive whiskey drinker, but she loves a Bowmore, she loves a Talisker. And Tony's a bigger whiskey drinker, and obviously has worked for the company, the Beam Suntory. But yeah, Bowmore's definitely up there in terms of a favourite for both of our spouses.
You have more expensive taste than Bowmore, though.
Sometimes.
Absolutely. And of course, I'm thinking with my Scotch hat on as well, because I'm a huge fan of Irish whiskey. That would definitely be, and again, I think it's that fruitiness. I like, that tropical fruit character, which will come through on a Bowmore. I love that on a pot still Irish whiskey as well. So something like a red breast or a green spot. Finally got a chance to try blue spot, which was super exciting from Middleton, because there's very few bottles of that kicking about. So that kind of style and flavor profile, big fan of, definitely.
I just started off my whiskey journey on Irish whiskey. Jameson. With a load of ice, I think I like the idea of drinking whiskey more than I like drinking whiskey.
Yeah, fair enough. Lots of people do.
And enjoy it. Balvenie was my first.
Me too. Same first bottle.
Yeah.
Balvenie. Yeah. First bottle.
And then I realized, actually, drinking it neat is the way forward. I moved from that on to, funnily enough, the Balvenie Founders 10-year-old.
Yeah, classic. Absolutely. A lot of people were very sad when we got rid of that.
Yeah, I felt like I was a jinx, because they finished that and I moved on to the Macallan 10-year-old, which of course they finished. So I moved on to the Glendronach 15-year-old, the Revival, which of course they finished. I'm just decided I'm just going to drink.
Yeah, you stop drinking whiskey, man. Don't be drinking anything I like, for goodness sake.
I think the other way. I started drinking them all because I thought there's no way they're going to finish them all. So I stopped.
Oh, for God's sake! Touch wood.
Very, very wise. I think that as all of Scotland is flooded by a large tsunami.
My first love was Tomatin. That was where I kind of got
Yeah.
into.
And that's a great one. Tomatin, I remember the Whisky Exchange show a few years ago, probably more like 8 years ago. And when I was going, because I was still writing, and one of my goals at the Whisky Exchange show down in London was always to go and try 2 stands that I had nothing from before. So it would have been about probably 2009, 2010. No, I'm lying. It would have been about 2012, 2013. Doesn't matter. But the point was, I went to the Tomatin stand and I tried through their entire range. And I think it's one that I sometimes forget about because I don't see it flash up as often. But their older stuff, like especially the stuff that's like 35 years old, so tropically, so fruity. And I love those. And I love the younger stuff as well. But I just remember being absolutely blown away by the complexity and the fruitiness and the balance that they get on their older whiskies as well.
What about the Canadian whiskies then? What's your... How do you feel about the growth of them? Yeah,
I think it's been great to see. And, you know, I grew up where every person in every corner of Canada would drink Crown and Coke. You know, that was the Christmas drink. You'd get a bottle of Crown Royal for Christmas and you'd have Coca-Cola in it. And that's what, I mean, I didn't because I was like 7. But I mean, you know, most of the adults, that was what they were always drinking through the 80s and 90s. But it's been great to see the growth, especially because we have such a long history in Canada of whiskey making. We were the first country in the world to bring in legal age requirements for how long you actually needed to age whiskey, which, you know, most people don't realize. And, you know, there's so much beautiful rye whiskey, but what we always did was export it to the US, and the US would bottle it under their own brand names. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that because there's no legal requirement to distill it in the US and stipulate it, or there wasn't back then. And so I think it's nice to see the Canadians standing on their own 2 feet a bit more and bottling some more of their own stuff. I haven't had a chance to try as much of it as I would like, just simply because I've lived over here for the last 14 years and I didn't drink whiskey when I lived in Canada. So it was usually when I would be back over, or I would go over for the Victoria Whiskey Festival, get a chance to try lots of Canadian whiskey. And just, it's super exciting to see, you know, that innovation I think we see in so many different countries around the world. I mean, I was reading recently about how many, there's so many distilleries in Germany. And I just, you know, I feel like I've got a long way now to almost go, and still every year to keep educating myself on just how many distillers are out there. The consumer is absolutely spoiled. So,
oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. And we say that all the time. There's all these the FOMO bottles that they keep on talking about, the fear of missing out. I'm trying to say to people, stop worrying about missing out, because there's loads
so
of stuff out there.
You're never going to taste everything. Ever.
Yeah,
I mean, unless that's like your mission in life is to taste every single whiskey that ever comes out, but I really don't think it's going to happen for anyone. Absolutely. So there's it's fantastic. From back to the Canadian point, really excited to see what's happening over there. Would love to try more of it. Would love them to make larger quantities so that more would come over to the UK. But a lot of the stuff I have tried has been really great. Just when I next get back. Eventually, it's been 2 years since I've been back to Canada. When I eventually get back, I definitely am going to pick up some more bottles.
I would like to think how many you pack up.
Great. Oh, I think we froze for a second there. Hopefully you guys are still there. Hopefully I'm still there.
I'm still here. Yeah. I missed what you said there, Mike.
Oh, I think Mike has frozen, possibly.
Mike's frozen. Yeah. So
he's drinking a cold beer.
Talk about Canada for a minute. So you mentioned
out a little bit there.
You back?
So I think I'm back. I'm back in the room.
You mentioned
okay?
You mentioned Toronto, Alwynne. So is it Ontario you're from?
No, I'm actually from British Columbia. Yeah, so I grew up on the West Coast. Yeah, and
I'm just saying that I lost connection with you guys.
We caught that bit. And he's gone. So I grew up in the West Coast, in the middle of nowhere, on a farm in northern British Columbia. So the absolute opposite of where I am this evening in Lioness Bar in the South Bank of London. But yes, then I moved east to go to university, to Ryerson University, which is one of the best journalism schools in the country. So said farewell to the country roots and headed out to the big city, and you know, just one of the best cities in the world. I always go back to Toronto, even though all my family's in BC. Always go back to Toronto every time I'm back, because it's just absolutely one of the best cities out there. So
I was fortunate enough to visit Ontario way back in 1976 when I was 10 years old. Typically speaking, the generation of my parents' relatives immigrated to Canada. So we had about 5 or 6 aunts and uncles, and used to go and on one occasion got to go and visit, and just overwhelmed. I would love to go back sometime.
Absolutely. It's
Incredible
changed.
country.
I would say it's potentially changed a bit since the mid-70s.
I'm sure it maybe has.
Before we
Possibly has.
You'll definitely be blown away by, especially a city like Toronto. It's just absolutely incredible. So I highly recommend it. Just great, really laid back, but also great food, great booze, great food, great people. So it's what we do well in Canada.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
See,
and how?
You're back.
I think Mike's back. Mike is back in the studio. Hello, Mike.
Am I back? I am back.
It's good. That felt like a very existential question.
I don't know what happened there. Tony tried to phone me, and I'm working off my hotspot, so I wonder if that kind of disconnected. The dogs had knocked me. Yeah. My router's not working. The dog's knocked it over, so I don't know what's happening.
There we go. I thought tonight was going to be somebody running back behind Alwynne, giving it kind of this.
I know, me too. I've been waiting for it. We've been okay so far. I'm actually just in my living room. I've just pumped in loads of pretend music, so it looks like I'm actually really cool and I'm out.
Is London quite busy tonight?
It is, yeah. We've definitely seen the increase. People are out and about. It's quite a shock actually when you've been used to it being a little bit quieter. But it's nice, like I said, and all the more power to it. I mean, there's so many great accounts down here for Balvenie, but for whiskey distilleries in general that people can go out to, and it's just great to see these places back up and running. So I'm super excited, especially after so much challenges they've been through this past almost 18 months, really, isn't it? It's a long time. So how's Scotland though faring? Is it things opening up there? Feeling
beginning to open up. I mean, I stay in a place called Aberherdar. I don't know how well you know the northeast of Scotland, but it's. Do you know where Glenglassaugh Distillery is?
Yep.
It's quite close to there, so it's pretty rural. I moved from Inverurie, which is small enough compared to something like London. And I don't go to any big cities anymore. I mean, Aberdeen. A trip to Aberdeen these days to me would be, like going to a major city.
Yeah.
So things are just slowly starting to pick up. I guess with the European Championship starting next week, we'll get an idea, because nobody's going to stay at home for that. There's no way people aren't going to be out in the street, and depending on results, of course. If Scotland were to get positive results, there is no way on this earth that there will not be people out in the street celebrating. It's impossible to think that we'll just sit down and accept that as
have a nice quiet.
That was nice. Somebody put the kettle on. That was lovely. That's just not going to happen. So.
I think we've all had enough of that.
The 20-yard belt in the top corner, and everyone just does that.
Gosh, my memory of going to football matches was hugging people that you've never met before in your life with a vigor when you score a goal. It's like,
I know. I think that's been one of the toughest things of lockdown for myself as a Canadian. I mean, all we do is hug. You hug. That's like, even strangers. You just you meet them for the first time. You get a big hug. That's what we do. So it's been a very deprived year. My Canadian hug system is definitely diminished at the minute, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So.
I would love to say you're the first Canadian to come onto our Blether, but that goes to Paul McLaughlin. I don't know if you've met Paul or if you've.
I have, yes, indeed. Yeah. He beat me to it. Shocking.
He was on about 3-4 weeks ago, so he. I Paul at Springbank actually. We did the whiskey school there together.
Amazing.
Kept in touch ever since. So yeah, he came on and had a chat about his work in dentistry into. His aroma academy and things like that, which is great. So, I'm just catching up on everything. I had to duck out a little bit.
We were talking about Canada, and I was saying how terrible it is working in Inverurie whiskey shop and stuff like that. So.
Naturally, bad mouthing you as soon as you left, Mike. But I think you'll get through it.
He'll be writing an open letter soon and getting
absolutely. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So what sort of things are you looking forward to then, Alwynne, as we open up and things go forward? What sort of developments are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to hosting some events in person, especially dinners. I really enjoy hosting not massive dinners, but just dinners, and where people can sit down and enjoy some really nice food cooked by some great chefs. Definitely things like that. We've got a few things we're planning. I've got a new comms campaign, which we're finishing up right now, so I can't say anything more about that, but watch this space. Some exciting things definitely coming from the Balvenie, which is going to be great, and some more fun collaborations. And then from a personal perspective, I have tickets to a few concerts this summer and this autumn, and I'm like, what? So that's very exciting. So just general getting out to see people, see the bars that I love, see people, in the hospitality trade that I love. So yeah, very, very excited about that. Trying not to overdo it though, and be like a child, just being like, I want to, like in a kid in a candy shop, going, I want to go here and here and here and here and here, because I find that a couple of train trips now, and I'm like, I'm tired. One journey on the tube, I'm like, my God, I can't believe I used to trek around the country with a little, suitcase of whiskey, because now the thought of that is pretty exhausting. And of course, this goes without saying. I mean, I feel like I don't even need to say it, but definitely getting back up to Scotland, getting back up to the distillery. I really, really miss Scotland. I always say it's just like Canada. So it's always been my little taste of Canada while I've been over here since I discovered going up there about 13 years ago. And I've definitely really missed that, because it always feels like if I can't get back over the Atlantic, at least I can get a little feel of home, because the Scottish people are there's a lot of similarity with the Canadians. So yeah, I feel a bit disconnected from that at the minute, and I'm looking very forward to that again soon.
Great whiskey and poor football. That's the two things we've got in common anyway. But yeah, I think that must be a lot of people who have kind of jumped into the virtual world are getting taste of distilleries that they maybe never looked at before, and the chance to go visit them looming ever closer. There'll be a lot of people think, oh, they've got so many to do, whereas before it was maybe we'll go to Speyside or we'll maybe do Isla, and that is growing and growing as well. You guys obviously the Ailsa Bay in your portfolio now as well, which we've had a couple of tastings, has always been received really well. So it's nice to that would be one that maybe people didn't hear of before.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think what's nice as well is, especially over the recent years, we've been seeing so many more distilleries come online and getting built, and those are going to be opening out their doors. And even I've been seeing photos of some places like the Isle of Raasay distillery and stuff, and just being like, oh my goodness, it's more beautiful than heading out to the Med. So it just looks absolutely stunning up there. So I think for the domestic tourist, there's so much opportunity to go and discover more of especially what Scotland has to offer, because the number of people I know down here in the southeast who have never been to Scotland shocks me always. I'm like, how have you never been there? Like, I think I went to Edinburgh once for the festival. And I'm like, how have you not seen the rest of this glorious country? It's so beautiful and it's on your doorstep. So I'm hoping that will also draw people, that maybe the stress around having to travel overseas. Yeah, I'm someone who used to frequently go 12, 14 countries a year. I absolutely love travel. I would say I was almost a little bit addicted to it. And it's been really joyful actually discovering a little bit more, a few more places closer to home actually as well. And I hope more people do that with Scotland, because it has so much to offer, and it makes me really excited, the idea that more people would actually get to go and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where we are in Aberdeen, or Aberdeenshire. We almost get missed out by the visitors. A lot of people go to Edinburgh and then they'll go up Inverness and they miss the northeast corner. They miss the
northeast corner. And I mean, that whole northeast corner is like my little hideaway, definitely. I don't ask me names of places, but from Findhorn, you go all the way along the coast over to Aberdeen. I've stayed up there quite a few times. I never remember what the name of the little town is, but yeah, just over near Cullen and everything. It's stunning. It's so gorgeous. So one day I'm still also going to do West Highland Way, obviously the opposite coastline, but definitely want to walk that at some point. So yeah.
Cullen is I should have said Cullen is a point. So Cullen's only 10 miles north.
Right. Yeah. I've got that in my head. Yeah, I've driven that coast so much, and I've stayed in a little village, maybe 10 miles east of that. A few times. There's a great little guest house over there. I always found it just the most peaceful, beautiful spot. So yeah, definitely. I hope more people will discover it, see what's on their doorstep, realize, you don't have to get on a plane. You can see something more local, and then including in that going to see these distilleries, which have so much to offer as well.
Yeah, Toby, Tobias's pop. Oh yeah, you go to Scotland for the whiskey, but you return for the people. I think we should visit Scotland and steal that.
Yeah, I think they should. Exactly. It's a great tagline. Definitely.
Phil is asking, is there any new? I'm going to throw in a wee question on the end of this. Are there any new releases on the way that you can share? And also, I heard rumors as well that the Caribbean cask might be discontinued.
No, definitely not. No, people seem to say that when it seems to not be available for a little bit, they're like, "Oh, it's been discontinued." No, it's fine. No, it's one of our most popular whiskeys. It's not going anywhere. Way too many people love that whiskey. No, Caribbean cask is here to stay, going nowhere. So I've heard that over the last 5-6 years. I've heard that pretty much every single year. At some point, when someone can't get a hold of a bottle, they're going, being discontinued. Like, no, it's not. Definitely not. We just have a lot of demand for it. So yeah. And no, I can't tell you any new releases that are coming out.
That doesn't say that there isn't. Okay.
But watch this space. We do have a few things coming out July, August, September. So definitely watch the space because some exciting stuff coming.
Brilliant. Well, that's kind of 45 minutes, almost 50 minutes. But, and I know you wanted to join your party again.
Still waiting for you.
For taking some time out.
No, not yet. I didn't actually order one, so I'm still on the water. I've been very responsible this evening.
Yeah. So we'll let you get to your cocktails. Thanks very much for taking time out with your night out.
Pleasure. No, I was really looking forward to chatting to you guys, and I'm glad I got to have a bit more of a vivacious atmosphere in the background as I chatted away to you. So
when you go, me and Russell, we sit in silence. I don't know.
just put on a musical track in the background.
It'll be Alexa, play background music or something. I don't know. Alexa, off.
Fantastic. Oh, well, thank you so much, guys. It's been a real pleasure getting to join you and chat away this evening, have a little blether, as you say. And I look forward to hopefully getting a chance to come up and actually see you in real life at some point when I'm next up in Scotland. Definitely would love to. I need a good road trip soon. My puppy's not been up to Scotland. His name is Barley for a reason. So, we got to get him up there to hang out in some barley in Scotland. Yeah. So definitely on the cards.
What kind of dog have you got?
He's a golden doodle.
A golden doodle. Nice.
Yeah. So he's fluffy and very intelligent. Poodle and retriever combo, which is a challenge, but definitely I think he'll love Scotland. So I'll bring him up.
We're all very much dog people, so Barley will be more than welcome.
Absolutely. I've just got rid of 10 puppies from a litter, and my other dog is pregnant, so we're due another litter in about 3 weeks. So this summer you might get the chance to see some newborns.
No, don't tell me, because then I'll be like, I'll have another one. No, I won't. Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and look forward to, like I said, hopefully seeing you in person again. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. And if anybody has any questions ever or wants to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram as @TheMissWhisky, so I'm pretty easy to shout out if you've got any questions about Balvenie or something. Then please do get in touch.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Owen. Enjoy your cocktails.
Hello to me. Enjoy your night.
Cheers.
Bye.
So instant silence. It's like, wow. What a great night.
That was so nice to hear. Just the hubbub.
Yeah.
That hubbub in the background was such a nice thing to hear. You almost forget what that's like.
I went out for a couple of drinks last night in Inverurie, and both the pubs we were in, there was 4 of us, and there was only maybe 2 other people.
No atmosphere. Yeah.
No, it was a bit great night. Good company. You're always gonna have a good night, but listening to that noise in the background,
that level, but it's not too loud. It's not too loud. You don't have to shout. You can have a conversation, but that kind of, there's other stuff going on. It's really nice to hear that and be part of it. And we've really missed that. I mean, good.
Yeah.
16 months, 18 months.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, we had a wee lift in was it August, September kind of time. it was still a lot of people weren't keen on going out. Was it?
I've not been out. I've not been in a bar.
No.
For probably almost 2 years. I mean, it's well long. I wasn't in one that often before. Well, the last time I was in the bar was with you in Edinburgh, Bow Bar.
Oh yeah, the academy.
So, yeah, that would have been beginning of last March. Yeah.
Yeah. The day Liverpool got knocked out of the Champions League.
Was that what happened that day as well? Was it?
Yeah, it was a terrible day. It's making dream figures to plummet now when they realise I'm a Liverpool fan. So.
Can't remember caring too much about that, to be honest. But that's a different.
It was kind of low down on the list of importance for that day. So who have we got next week? Is it?
It's Antia.
It's Antia.
Antia Allegro from Kilhoman.
Yeah. So next week our Blether with Antia. And I think we're going to line up a tasting with Kilhoman pretty soon. I'm keen to make it an in-person. Phil's just put a comment there, not had a face-to-face tasting in so long. I'm keen to make that one of our first face-to-face in-house tastings. It's going to take a few weeks to prep for it, so hopefully we'll have the tasting room, the new tasting room and bar set up.
Well, we've got a nice range as well, because I think the last one we did with Kilhoman was there was just kind of the 3 drams. It was with the embassy.
Yeah.
It was a kind of short one with the chocolate, I think.
Yeah, the course.
A kind of full tasting would be. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we have Antia next week. The week after, I think we've got Ian McAllister booked in. From
not booked yet, so we need to. I need to move on that. So apologies for.
Yeah, false advertising. But potentially,
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
We'll put pressure. We'll show them this video. And say, right,
yes, you're on. You're on. We booked you. That's it. You're already in.
Yeah. So some great events, guys, coming up as well. Still virtual. We're still doing the virtual tomorrow night. We've got Duncan Taylor. Their new release. We've got 6 great single casks. 3 from the Dimensions, 3 from the Octave. They've got Auchindoun, Glengarry, a Brackla, which looks outstanding. If you're a colour geek, the Brackla will probably be the most attractive one for you. And then the week after, we're doing a wine cask tasting. The wine. So we've got the 3 wines. The week 3 wine finished from the French collection, paired with 3 of the wines used. Not the exact wine, but 3 of the wine styles used for that. So that's going to be a good night. If you have ordered, don't worry, they are coming to you. We're waiting until Monday to open the wine, so you get nice fresh wine. Any longer than that kind of 5-day period, it starts to lose its flavour. So that's why you haven't got it if you're watching and you haven't got your pack yet for the tomato, because it's sold really well. What else?
Murray McDavid the week after that.
Murray McDavid the week after that. Yeah, we've got Dean Loeb. So he's the master of whiskey creation at Murray McDavid. So you'll be in good hands there also. That one, that's on the 26th.
So yeah, I think so. I think it's Saturday.
Yeah. If we can, guys, if you've bought tasting packs and you're local, that's the first one I think that possibly, if we're ahead of schedule of getting people in, that we might invite you along, so to come in and sit in the new tasting room. So we're developing the tasting room, so it's going to be a lot fancier, a little bit more options available, and almost become a whiskey bar in its own right. So we've got quite a lot of work going on there. We have a couple of single cask expressions coming up. Tobias put on Argon Wine Saver Gas. Yeah, I've got a couple of those, Tobias. They're not very good for miniatures going in tasting packs to send out to people, though. It's for sending out to the guys who are tasting the samples, which are we're worried about the quality of the wine. So that's why we're leaving it till next week. And Scott's going to be on there. Scott Adamson from Tomatin is going to be on the tasting with us.
Scott's great. Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming up. What have you got on this weekend? What are you drinking this weekend, Russell?
Gosh, so yeah, we've got my brother-in-law and his fiancée coming up to state, and we're going to go down to Glendronach which is on my doorstep. We're going down to do one of the tastings at the distillery. So looking forward to that and seeing what it's all about.
I took out the handful. So this is, I believe it's still available at the distillery.
Did you get the PX or the Oloroso?
I've got, this is the Oloroso. I've got both.
Yeah, I got the Oloroso. So it's just sitting up there actually. Yeah. I might actually go for one of those actually instead of the Glenglasser.
This is my. So because I didn't know where the conversation was going to go. If it was going to go down at the sherry mode, I had that one ready.
Well, that's what I was going to do with the Glenglasser, but I'll maybe go Glendronach instead. Good idea. Join you with one of those. This is a cracking dram.
These are fantastic.
You see, my one's a lot further down the bottle than yours is.
I've been keeping it. I can't remember why. So
I think if I pop mine to the top of yours, it'll be a full bottle.
the label on this one was actually leaked. Well, no, it got leaked on, so the label's not that great. But these were. So this is. I'm pretty sure it looks very much like Tony's handwriting. Can't have been.
No, it was she was away from there by the time we got these.
Yeah.
These were about a year ago.
Like her handwriting.
Not even that. It was bottled August last year. So
yeah, I was 21st of August. This one.
21st of August, yeah.
Did I pick yours up when I was there? Did I?
You did, yeah.
Well, there you go. So I know Glendronach has been getting a bit of a battering on social media, so it's nice to read a dram and celebrate it. I love Glendronach. I think
still so good. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, Glendronach, the 18-year-old in the past would have been one, but a handful in particular, you just sit and nose it all night long. You don't even have to think about drinking it for such a long time.
What's that, about 61%? Is it 60?
61.7, I think. Yeah, 61.7.
I don't like the negative. I don't like being negative about whiskey full stop, but when, this whole chill filtration, we'll have to get somebody from Glendronach on a Blether and we'll chat about it. But it's just, so much perception. It's going to be poor.
Yeah.
First, argue there.
It would be nice to have a proper chat. I mean, I guess one of the hardest things, I suppose one of the things that's fueling the conversation, apart from Rolf, I think Rolfie had a bit of dialogue with him via email. And I think they did offer him to come up to the distillery, but I think he kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, which didn't seem particularly fair. But I think one of the things that we need to have, if people are going to change something, if they would just have a dialogue so that people can understand. Because if they don't have the dialogue, then conspiracy theories will prevail.
Yeah.
I'm
not going to buy it again.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
If it's a favourite drama of yours, just because they're taking some words off, why have they taken it off? They're obviously opening themselves up to new markets and whatnot. But these handfuls are still going to be quality. Yeah. We'll see, guys. If you've got your thoughts on Glendronach, I know we're having a Blether with Alwynne, Balvenie kind of theme, but it's not about. I say this every week. Our Blethers are not about promoting any in particular distillery or anything. It's just about showcasing the people in the industry. Alwynne had to leave early, so we've got a few minutes just to throw in some ideas. So we both had the Glendronach. That's why we're on that subject. You got thoughts on Glendronach and where they're heading? Please feel free to pop it in. Absolutely quality whiskey.
I'm looking forward to getting into the distillery again. I mean, the thing about Glendronach, the actual distillery itself is a fabulous place. It feels like Mecca. It feels like a Mecca of whiskey. I drive past it twice a day when I come down to the shop. I look at it every single time. I never ever ignore it. In fact, I slow down so I can look at it better every single time. And that's like 6 times a week. I'm going past it, and it's like, I'll look at it and just, I kind of, I'm annoyed that it's shut because I can't go in. I'm on my way to work. I've got to get to work. On the way back, it's closed. I would probably go in past every day if it was open.
Yeah,
if we could, because it's just one of these places you want to just stop and feel and enjoy and It's just got a wonderful, wonderful feel about the place. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. People saying they're not going to drink it or buy it again is just absolute silliness, madness.
It needs to be given a chance. They've came out in that Ralphie conversation that you mentioned. They came out and said we are not changing. There's no change to the ABV. Yeah. So let's give it a chance. We got the new Portwood. I don't know if you've been in since the Portwood non-age statement came in. I haven't tried it yet.
I had the bottle the last batch of the Portwood, and it was just amazing. I don't have enough coupons to to get this time round, unfortunately. But I'm sure they'll be gone from the shelf before I get a chance to buy one. But the Glendronach Portwood is lovely. Really, really beautiful dram.
Well, we'll have to crack open a dram and do a review for the port cask appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Philip, you're absolutely right. There needs to be more dialogue. I think that's exactly what it is. There's just been criticism about it. People have just gone up in arms. Oh, this is terrible, and slating them for their move, blaming Brown-Forman, blaming the American market. I think there just has to be dialogue, proper conversation.
Yeah.
And not good appreciation of a great dram.
I do think the whiskey is overpowering the beer now. I can't believe it's a wee tin of beer, and it's taken me an hour to get down to that.
I took an hour to go through my gin.
Yeah. It shows how good a Blether was when you're not thinking about drinking.
Absolutely. I did feel a little bit guilty. All of them was in water, so you kind of.
You can't be guilty.
She's got a big night. She's got a big night ahead of herself. I completely understand. I wish I was as restrained.
I think when she obviously takes the job very seriously when she's
of course
all like this, and she's out with friends. It shows the dedication that she's like, no, make sure I'm sober for this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to read out tasting notes. You might recognise these. So this is the tasting notes for an upcoming release from the shop, which I'm not quite excited about. I'm very excited about. But I can't find them. Here we go. So, guys, if these tasting notes sound intriguing to you, keep an eye on the page because something very exciting is coming up. So, a nose of pineapple syrup, freshly peeled mandarin and raspberry milkshake, a palette of milk chocolate covered hazelnuts, nougat, toffee with a hint of spicy pepper, and a finish of lingering licorice and sweet toffee. How good does that whiskey sound?
Sounds familiar.
So if you like the sound of that, if you're a fan of bourbon bombs, what we call it, a bourbon bomb, we get all these sherry casks, sherry bombs. Something very exciting is coming very soon. Not to give the game away, but you can also follow. I think Ross Jolly has put on a page the Lancadam Whisky Society Appreciation Society. So there's a couple of clues for something coming out. Phil's just asked any clues.
Yeah, there you go. There's a big clanging of a clue there, Phil.
So that'll be coming out very soon. The bottling is in process. So yeah, look forward to that. The Glenallachie that we had out. I noticed Juliet was on. We're on. So that's the Glenallachie we had has been phenomenally well received. I wish we had Sean Russell plugging it because I think we would have sold out if he was on behind it. Everything he does seems to sell out in days. So not a sherry bomb, but sometimes bourbon whiskey is.
You're very, 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 very hot, Duncan. Roasting. Very excited about this one.
Yeah, so we got the choice of a couple of casks, and it was nip and tuck which one we went for. I think we've gone for the right one.
Yeah, I think both. I mean, it was 1 point of a difference for me when we scored them. But yeah, I mean, and both had slight differences. There was much more pineapple coming through in the one that we chose.
When it's weather like this, it would be outstanding sitting outside and having that.
Yeah,
that glass.
Lovely summer dram. Yeah, absolutely.
A good summer's drink. We're probably about 6 weeks away, I would say. But keep an eye out. We're looking at doing something with Ross on the Glencadam Facebook page for our first kind of release. So if you're not a member, give us a shout and we can. Doug he doesn't care about, does he? What's the age? What's the price point? We'll do a launch special through the Glencadam page, and we're going to do a launch. It's a 15-year-old single cask. Cask 494 was the one we were.
I think, yeah.
Fully matured, first fill bourbon. Price point will be very similar to the Glenallachie that we had out there. Glencadam and Tomintoul, Angus Dundee, very, very rarely do single casks. It's only when they get a cask that is head and shoulders above that they open it up to something we do, like what we've got. And very rarely they'll do an exclusive for a shop, so we're quite lucky.
494,
we're very lucky to get the opportunity to work with them. Both whiskies have been so well received for us in the shop. Out with local guys in Glenallachie, Glencadam, Tomintoul must be our biggest sellers in the shop. And a lot of that is because we love it, so we talk about it.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Indeed it does, yeah. So yeah, you've got your local Glendronach, Glenallachie, and then Glencadam's probably Tomintoul. Absolutely. There's so many other good whiskies in there, but you just get yourself drawn to talking about them because, yeah, it's so good.
Well, guys, thanks very much for joining us tonight. That's us just over 8 o'clock. So I say every week we could talk for hours, but we want to keep you coming back. We don't want to get you bored. And I know there's something happening. Is it the?
There's something is it not that kind of foot kick thing? Kickball something. Yeah.
That's it. So
kickball.
We'll forgive you.
Scotch kickball. That's what it is. Scotch kickball. Yeah.
Scots can't kickball. Come on, let's be honest.
I'm optimistic. I am. I'm not even quietly optimistic. I'm properly optimistic.
Every time we come out and we think, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do well. I'm just glad that we don't overhype it.
Did you watch Mr. Brown's Boys the other day?
Oh, but the night was the France 98.
Yeah, did you watch it?
I didn't. My dad was telling me about it.
You've got to watch it on iPlayer. The best comment of the whole thing is that there's so many great bits about it, but they're lined up. They're lined up in the tunnel with the Brazil players, and they're smelling them. They're looking at them. They smell good. They look good. They're just, they're all starting to shrink a wee bit. And Craig Burley says, I think it was Craig Burley, I think, that said he hears the voice from somebody at the back saying, "Don't worry, boys, they're shiting it." And he's thinking, who the hell said that? And he looks back, it was actually Craig Brown. That's superb. Don't worry, boys, they're shiting it.
Yeah, Craig Brown, you don't expect that to come from him.
Absolutely not. The school teacher, yeah. You need to watch an iPlayer, Mike. It's superb, and you'll shed a wee tear as well.
I vaguely remember Italia 90. I remember the 92 Champions Euros, but France 98 was the first one that I properly sitting in the pub, with my dad, glass of Coke in my hat. I would have been 98, 14, 15, 14. And then
that was our last World Cup. I mean, for me, that was like, we qualified every World Cup, 74, 78, 82, 86, and then 90, 5 World Cups in a row. We missed out in the USA one, but then there was no UK club at the USA. England didn't get there, Northern Ireland didn't get there, Wales didn't get there. and neither did we. And then, of course, we then qualified again in '98. So we qualified for 6 out of 7 World Cups. 30 years. 24 years. No, 30 years. Yeah, 7 4 is 28 years. We qualified for 6 World Cups. It was just like we always qualified, and then suddenly we don't qualify for anything ever again.
It was. I remember. I still remember Boyd getting his shoulder on that save from Leighton.
Jim Leighton in the neck. It was the most bizarre thing. The shot hit Cafu's shot hit Leighton in the neck, and then hit him in the shoulder. And
an absolutely outstanding save. The thing is, if it hit him in the face,
that's right. But he went over the bar or something. Yeah.
And then we would have had to drop him with a broken nose for the Morocco game, which probably wouldn't have been a bad thing.
Well, it wouldn't have changed the look of Jim at all.
Yeah, it wouldn't knock out his 2 front teeth anyway.
My favourite ever goalkeeper. I love Jim Leighton with a passion. I told you about playing football at
on his eyebrows.
The Sports Village.
No?
Did I tell you about playing football at the Sports Village?
No.
Oh, my claim to fame. Just with the Grand Prix Strikers, the mental health football team that I used to run. And I just happened to get the ball. One of the guys was right behind me, and he was trying to kick me, and I realised, so I kind of flicked it by him, and I ran on. And I sort of looked up, thought, Chris, I'm on the edge of the box. Looked up, the goalie was right in the middle of the goal, so I just curled it right into the top corner. I was like, Belter, I was really pleased. There was no massive celebration, just a kind of kick about, but I was like, yes. And then the buzzer went, so we had to get off. And I didn't realise, but the Aberdeen youth team were all lined up waiting to come on for their training session.
Yeah.
So Neil Cooper was there, Neil Neil, not Neale, but Neil Cooper was there, and Jim Leighton, who was involved with him as well. So of course we're all just kind of walking off, and Jim Leighton goes, "Some goal, pal." Cheers, Jim.
I would have saved that.
So to get some goal, pal for Jim Leighton was my absolute playing football. Yeah.
I'll be honest. I just looked at the viewing counter. We've still got 5 people. So 5 people. 5 people now know that you scored a screamer of a goal.
And Jim Leighton loved it.
Guys, absolute pleasure to be talking again for you. Any questions? Feel free. We do follow up in the comments. So if we've missed any questions, we'll get back to you. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
And you know where we are on email, guys. Get in touch, keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. But looking forward to next week. Another great ambassador for Whisky and Tia. There's some great whiskies. I was going to bring out actually for tonight. I was going to have the red wine single cask Homing that they had, and then I thought no, because I'm pretty and Tia's coming up soon, so I'll save it for that.
Have you still got some of that left? Because you got the red wine underport, didn't you?
I couldn't find the port. I'm sure I've got it left somewhere, but I'll need to dig it out.
Well, if you've got enough for a wee friends drop, then that'd be well received.
Hey, next week, I thought about it today. I thought I should have invited you round to the house. We could have done it in the same room. So next week we might be able to do it in the same room.
But is that possible? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm working next week. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, after what you said today about the conditions you're working for,
getting put up with the boss as well. Like, okay, fair enough.
Right, guys, we're going to shoot now. But thanks very much for joining on. And hopefully we'll see you next week. See you in the shop. See you online. As Russell said, you know where we are.
Yep.
Good night. Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, good night.